You might find metric-sized nuts and bolts confusing, if you grew up on inch sizes. A couple of times lately I've seen a helpful photo not dissimilar to this one crop up on the internet. Except of course, it's complete and utter rubbish, and even if it was right, it's not exactly helpful. I mean, if you're confronted with a nut or a bolt that needs undoing, it's not usually that easy to tell what the thread size is. And let's face it, if you're going to put a vernier caliper on the thread to measure the size of that, you might as well just measure the hex of the fastener and go and look for the size wrench you need. If you're still unsure as to why this picture is less than useful, take a look at this. It's a wrench out of a Yamaha factory toolkit. Due to the nature of my photography skills, you can very nearly make out the numbers 10 and 12 on the wrench. But, according to the metric bolt hack picture, the 10mm end is for M6 threaded bolts, but what does the 12mm end fit? M7. How did we get from 6 to 8 in 2mm of bolt size but 3mm of wrench size? And then there's this 14mm and 17mm Kawasaki factory toolkit wrench. What does that fit? Annoyingly, it turns out that on the Kawasaki the 14mm wrench end is going to fit an M10 bolt and the 17mm end is most likely going to fit an M12 fastener. Like I said, that metric bolt wrench size picture is pretty useless. Turns out that not only do Japanese vehicles tend to use a 12mm wrench for an M8 nut or bolt and a 14mm wrench for an M10, but while you'll find M10 bolts with a 1.5mm pitch on a lot of European stuff, the Japanese almost exclusively use M10 with a 1.25mm pitch or a 1mm pitch. But at the end of the day, you just need a full set of metric wrenches and find the one that fits, much the same as you would with inch sizes. But I promised you a metric thread hack, so I'd better give you one. All this talk of thread pitch is a little confusing if you're used to inch stuff where you have things like quarter, 20 threads, right? But how do you know what size tapping drill to use to tap a quarter, 20 thread in a component? Well, it's 13/64. But why is that? Hold on, here comes some math. Quarter inch is 250 foul, 20 turns per inch means that 1 turn is 50 foul, and that's the pitch of the thread. Turns out that if you take the 50 foul pitch from the 250 foul thread diameter, you get 200 foul. 200 times 64 is 12,800 foul. But since that was thousandths of an inch, that makes 12.8 inches if you multiply it by 64, and so 200 foul is near as damn it 13/64. Now imagine having to work that out in metric. What a nightmare that would be. Well, let's give it a go. Nearest equivalent to a quarter 20 bolt in metric is an M6 by 1mm pitch. So we have to deduct the pitch from the thread diameter to get the size of tapping drill we need, right? Okay, brace yourselves, more math. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5mm drill bit is the tapping size. That M10 by 1.5 I mentioned earlier. Tapping drill size is 8.5mm. 10 minus 1.5. For an M8 by 1.25 thread, since no one likes math, we will just ignore the last figure and go with 1.2 to get 6.8. The boss has a set of metric taps and dies that are apparently for cutting threads in cheese, but says to grab a set as they do have the less common sizes the Japanese use, and are capable of cleaning threads up in actual metal. Just don't try cutting any threads with them. Between using them to fix damaged threads and using the included thread gauge to identify what he's dealing with, they've gotten Mr. Blackjack out of trouble on numerous occasions. And of course, once you've identified the thread size and pitch, then working out the size drill you need to tap it turns out to be easy. All you need to do is to identify the thread pitch and then deduct that from the thread diameter, and that gives you the size drill you need for tapping the matching thread. So there you have it. Hopefully you find it helpful. I'd find it helpful if you could like, subscribe and click the notification bell. YouTube likes a bit of engagement, so if you could leave a comment that would be helpful too. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and I'll see you in the next one.